My name is Marcus. I'm 34 years old, currently single, and for the past 5 months, I've ignored every phone call from my family. Not because I stopped loving them, but because I finally learned the difference between love and self-destruction. See, sometimes the people closest to you, the ones you grew up with, protected, sacrificed for, end up being the ones who hold the knife. And you don't even see it coming until it's buried so deep you can't breathe. For me, that person was my younger brother, Julian, the kid I used to walk to school, the one I bought his first car for, the one I covered for when he got arrested for shoplifting and was too afraid to tell mom. Yeah, that Julian. He married my ex-fiancée last year, and he didn't even tell me. I found out from a Facebook post. But let me back up, because if you're going to understand how much that broke me, you need to know what came before. The pain didn't start with a wedding photo. It started with trust and ended with silence. Julian and I grew up like most brothers, sharing bunk beds, punching each other over video games, covering for each other in front of mom. But when our dad died, everything shifted. I was 16. Julian was 12. I still remember standing outside the ICU, watching him sob into the sleeves of his hoodie. I knelt beside him, placed my hand on his shoulder and said, "You and me, kid. Always." I meant it. After that, I stepped up. Mom tried her best, but I knew she was drowning emotionally and financially. I started working at 17, stocking shelves, tutoring, doing whatever I could to keep the house from falling apart. Julian, he was always the dreamer. Smart, charming, but irresponsible as hell. Failed classes, skipped school, went through jobs like socks. But I never gave up on him. I didn't know how to, because to me, being a big brother meant carrying the weight without ever letting him feel it. I covered his rent when he moved out at 20, paid for his DUI lawyer when he was 23. When I got promoted to senior analyst at a finance firm, the first person I called was him. "We're moving up," I told him. "Not just me. Us." Then came Elena. I met Elena at a tech expo in Chicago. She was stunning. Sharp eyes, wicked sense of humor, the kind of person who could walk into a room and instantly own it without trying. We dated for 2 years. I thought I'd marry her. Hell, I had the ring in my sock drawer for 6 months before I proposed. She said yes. We cried. We kissed. We called our families. Julian was the first person to show up at the celebration dinner. He brought champagne and made a toast that I can still hear, to my brother, my mentor, my hero. And to Elena, the best thing that's ever happened to him. I believed every word. I should have listened harder to how he looked at her. But I didn't. Because I trusted him. Why wouldn't I? The cracks started small. Elena began spending more time at our apartment. She and Julian started texting, just sharing memes, she said. Then they'd laugh at inside jokes I wasn't part of. One night, I came home and found them watching a movie together on the couch. I asked, "Where's the popcorn?" trying to keep it light. Julian looked at her, then back at me and said, "Guess we ate it all." I didn't think much of it. I wanted to believe there was nothing there. But something felt off. Like I had walked into a room where a conversation had just stopped. I brushed it off. Because paranoia isn't love. And love means trust. Or at least that's what I thought. 3 months before the wedding, Elena called it off. No warning. No real explanation. Just, "I need space." She moved out within the week. No cheating, no fight, no drama, just distance. Julian told me, "Maybe she got cold feet, man. It happens." I cried for 2 weeks. I didn't go to work. I couldn't even look at the ring. I kept thinking, what did I do wrong? What didn't I see? It took me 7 more months to get my answer. A friend of mine sent me a photo on Facebook with no caption. Just a picture. Julian. Elena. Standing on a beach. Matching white clothes. Holding hands. Married. I dropped my phone. Literally. I thought it was a joke. I thought, no, hoped it was an old picture. But the date was clear, 2 days ago. No invite. No heads up. Not even a "Hey, sorry if this hurts." Just a new life posted like it didn't come at the cost of mine. And that's when it hit me, this wasn't about her choosing him. This was about them choosing to erase me. I didn't block him. That's what I want you to know. I didn't curse him out. I didn't show up at their wedding. I didn't even post anything. I just vanished. From group chats, from family dinners, from every space he used to have access to. And still, he had the nerve to call me. 8 times in one day. No voicemail, no text. Just kept calling. Like I owed him something. Like I was the one who needed to hear him out. That part broke me more than I like to admit. Because deep down, I wanted one of those calls to be an apology. A real one. I wanted him to say, I messed up and I don't expect forgiveness, but you deserved the truth. But that's not Julian. It never was. Julian doesn't apologize. He just shows up like nothing happened and expects you to adjust. I didn't answer the first day. Or the second. But on the third, I picked up. I don't know why. Maybe curiosity. Maybe spite. Maybe I just wanted to hear his voice and see if I could still recognize it. Marcus, he said, like we were mid-conversation. I didn't say anything. Just let the silence stretch. He sighed. Look, I know you're mad. Mad. Like he had forgotten the word betrayal even existed. But it wasn't like that, he continued. Things just happened. 1 minute we were talking, and the next it felt real. We didn't mean to fall for each other. But we did. What were we supposed to do? Deny it? My jaw clenched so tight I thought my teeth would crack. I asked, slowly, did you ever think about me? He didn't answer right away. That silence said more than any lie could. Of course I did, he finally said. But you were gone. She left and you shut down. You weren't even the same person. I wanted to scream, to tell him I shut down because she left, because he helped her leave. Because I was mourning 2 people and didn't know I was losing them both at the same time. I'm sorry if it hurt you, he said, like he was apologizing for stepping on my shoe, not ripping out my spine. But we are happy. And I hope someday you can be happy for us. I hung up. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just pressed the red button and placed the phone face down on the table. Then I sat in silence, staring at the floor for over an hour. Because there's a unique kind of pain in realizing the 2 people you trusted most sat across from each other one day and decided you were disposable. They didn't forget me. They erased me. On purpose. I stopped checking social media after that. Blocked their names. Muted family members who kept tagging them in smiling photos and power couple captions. Even my own mother had posted one. So proud of my 2 beautiful kids. I never responded. I didn't have it in me. Because pride built on betrayal isn't something I can respect. And if my mother was proud of that union, then maybe she never really saw me either. I started walking more. Not for exercise, just to be outside. Just to feel like the world was still turning. That maybe, eventually, I could move with it again. I went weeks without speaking to anyone. My voicemail filled up. My fridge stayed mostly empty. My boss offered time off, I took it. I thought about moving. Thought about quitting everything and starting over in a city where no one knew my name, where I didn't have to flinch every time I passed a street I once walked with Elena. But I didn't, because you can't run from pain that lives in your chest. You carry it, and eventually you either let it bury you, or you learn to breathe through it. Julian texted once more. We're having a small gathering next month. No pressure. But if you came, it'd mean a lot. I didn't reply. There's nothing left to say to someone who thinks your attendance is the fix. I'm not a witness to their happiness. I'm the wreckage they built it on. And no amount of free wine or fake hugs will change that. The worst part about betrayal isn't the act itself. It's the people who tell you to get over it. The ones who look at the wreckage and ask why you're still standing there like it's your fault the house burned down. A month after the call with Julian, I started hearing from the rest of my family. Not all at once, but gradually. Like waves that don't mean to drown you, but still pull you under. My mother called first. She said, Marcus, baby, you need to come to terms with it. They're married now. It's time to move on. I asked her, would you say the same thing if Julian stole my job? Or burned my house down? Or hit me in the face? She got quiet. Then said something I'll never forget. Love is complicated. You can't help who your heart chooses. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was such a cliché it sounded rehearsed. You're defending them? I asked. She replied, I'm not taking sides. I'm trying to keep this family from falling apart. That's when I realized she was taking sides. Because neutrality in the face of betrayal isn't neutral. It's siding with the betrayer. Then came my cousin Rebecca. She sent me a voice note. Marcus, I love you, but you're being kind of dramatic. Elena was never yours to begin with. People grow apart. You should be happy your brother found someone. I stared at the phone in disbelief. I had never felt less seen in my entire life. People kept saying I was bitter. As if bitterness is worse than betrayal. As if grieving a decade of loyalty meant I was the toxic one. Every time someone said, just move on, it felt like they were slapping duct tape over an open wound. Because how do you move on from two people who hollowed you out and wore your skin to their wedding? It wasn't about jealousy. It was about erasure. Julian didn't just fall in love with someone I dated. He married the woman I was going to build my life with. He took my future and made it his own. And then had the audacity to act like I was ruining his happiness by not smiling through it. I stopped going to family events. Stopped answering group chats. They noticed, but no one asked why. They already knew why, they just didn't want to say it out loud. Because acknowledging it meant accepting that maybe Julian wasn't a good guy. That maybe I wasn't just being sensitive. That maybe what happened was actually messed up. And no one wants that. Because calling out betrayal makes people uncomfortable. They'd rather paint me as the problem. The bitter one. The quiet one. The dramatic one. Because then they don't have to change anything. I even got a text from Elena's sister. She said, I know it's hard, but Julian really makes her happy. Can't that be enough? I stared at that sentence for so long. The screen dimmed. Because no, it's not enough. Their happiness doesn't erase what they did. It doesn't absolve them of the way they went about it. It doesn't heal me. It just makes them feel better about not looking back. I realized something then. People don't care about how much pain you carry. They care about how quietly you carry it. And when you stop being quiet, when you stop making it easy for them to ignore what happened, they call you the problem. So I stopped trying. Stopped explaining. Stopped justifying my absence. Because if they wanted me there, they'd have protected me when it mattered. They didn't. And that's all I need to know. 3 months after the wedding, Julian showed up at my apartment. No call. No warning. Just knocked on my door like we were still brothers who shared secrets and beers and late-night advice. I almost didn't open it. I stood behind the door for a good minute, debating whether silence would hurt him more than confrontation. But I opened it. Not for him. For myself. Because I wanted to see the face of the man who had watched me fall apart and still smiled at his wedding. He was holding a six-pack, of course. Casual. Familiar. Smiling like we were about to watch a game. Hey, he said. Thought we could talk. I stared at him. I didn't move. Didn't invite him in. Just said, why are you here? He shifted, like he hadn't expected resistance. I thought maybe we could start over, he said. Water under the bridge, right? That phrase, water under the bridge, made my chest tighten. Like he thought betrayal had an expiration date. Like time was supposed to make me forget that he stood where I was supposed to stand. I didn't say anything. He kept talking. Look, I know it was messy. I get it. But I didn't plan for this to happen. We just connected. It's not like I stole her from you. That sentence burned. Because yes, he did. Maybe not with intent, but with neglect. With silence. With small choices that added up to a knife in the back. Did you love her when we were together? I asked. His eyes dropped. That pause told me everything. I didn't plan to, he muttered. But yeah, maybe I did. My jaw clenched. And you didn't think to step back? To let her go out of respect? He shrugged. I thought she'd leave either way. Better me than some stranger. That was it. That was the line that snapped something in me. Better you? I asked, stepping closer. You think that made it better? You think knowing it was you made the wound cleaner? He had no answer. Just looked at me with that same lost expression he wore the night Dad died. But this wasn't grief. This was cowardice. I told him slowly, you didn't just break my heart, Julian. You stepped over it. You saw it in pieces, and instead of helping me gather it, you picked up the one thing left in my life and made it yours. He looked down. I didn't want to hurt you. But you did. Silence. Then he said, Mom misses you. She wants us to fix this. That made me laugh. Bitter. Hollow. Of course she does. It's easier to fix the victim than face the villain. He winced. So what, you're never going to forgive me? I looked him dead in the eye. No. Not today. Not tomorrow. Maybe not ever. You didn't just lose a brother, Julian. You gave him up. He didn't speak again. He just left the six-pack on the ground, turned around, and walked away. I didn't pick it up. I kicked it over. Let the bottles roll down the hallway and clink against the wall. Because no drink was strong enough to make me forget that the person I protected for 2 decades saw my life collapse and poured champagne on top of it. And walked away smiling. It was late November when Elena messaged me. Nearly 5 months after the wedding. Her name popped up on my screen like a ghost, one I'd buried without a funeral. I stared at it for a long time. Just her name. No photo. No preview. Just a notification that pulled my chest into my stomach. I didn't open it right away. I walked around my apartment 3 times, poured a glass of water I didn't drink, sat down, stood up again. Then I opened it. Her message said, "Hey, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from. But I needed to say something." I didn't respond. She sent another one an hour later. "I think about you. More than I should. I'm not expecting anything. Just needed you to know." I stared at the screen and all I could think was, why now? Why not when you left? Why not before you married my brother? Why not before you watched me fall apart without saying a word? Then came the third message. I made a mistake. That was the one that stung. Because part of me wanted to believe it. Part of me wanted to scream, "I know you did." Part of me wanted to rewind time and pretend maybe, just maybe, this was her redemption arc. But I didn't reply. Not because I didn't feel anything, but because I felt everything. Because pain doesn't vanish with 3 little words. I made a mistake doesn't undo months of silence. It doesn't change the photo of her in a white dress standing next to the man who used to call me his hero. And yet she kept going. Over the next week, she sent 5 more messages. None of them dramatic. All of them careful. Almost rehearsed. I thought about calling. I saw something that reminded me of you. I didn't realize what I lost until too late. You were always the constant. I never stopped loving you. That last one? That one broke me. Because that's the lie that people like her tell themselves to feel better. If she never stopped loving me, then what the hell did she marry Julian for? If I was the constant, why did she disappear when my world fell apart? She didn't love me. She loved the version of me that made her feel safe. And when that version cracked, she found someone shinier, easier, newer. My own brother. That wasn't love. That was convenience. And when the convenience wore off, when the glow faded, she came crawling back to the place she once called home, hoping it would still be unlocked. It wasn't. I typed one sentence. Just one. You don't miss me. You miss how I made you feel. Then I deleted it. Not because it wasn't true, but because she didn't deserve the truth from me anymore. The truth is a gift. And she already threw hers away. I blocked her that night. Not out of rage. Out of finality. Because some wounds only close when you stop letting the person who caused them speak. And I was done listening. For good. There's something no one tells you about betrayal. It doesn't end when they stop hurting you. It ends when you stop holding space for them in your life. After I blocked Elena, I sat in the dark for a long time. No TV. No phone. Just me and the weight of a chapter that would never get a happy ending. And then something strange happened. I breathed. Not just normal breathing, but deep, full, unclenched breathing. Like I'd been holding my breath for months and finally remembered how to let air back in. That's when I knew closure wasn't coming. Not from Julian. Not from Elena. Not from family. And I didn't need it. I started rebuilding quietly. I deleted old photos. Packed away things I had been pretending I'd deal with. When I was ready, I got rid of the champagne flutes we bought together. Donated the couch we picked out as a couple. Threw away the spare key Julian left behind years ago when he first moved out. I wasn't angry. I was clearing space for me. And it felt good. I took long walks without my phone. Started going to the gym again. Read books without checking my notifications every 5 minutes. I began showing up for myself in a way I used to show up for everyone else. And slowly, the silence that once felt like punishment started feeling like peace. People in my life noticed. A friend I hadn't seen in months invited me to a cabin trip. Said, "You're starting to look like you again." I smiled. Not because I was healed, but because I was healing. Then one day, I woke up and realized I hadn't thought about them in days. Not Julian. Not Elena. Not the wedding. Not the betrayal. Just life. My life. I sat at my kitchen table that morning with a fresh cup of coffee, and for the first time in almost a year, I didn't feel like the guy who lost everything. I felt like a man who survived it. That's when I opened a new document and started writing down everything I wish someone had told me sooner, that sometimes your biggest heartbreak won't come from a lover, but from someone who shares your blood. That family isn't defined by DNA, it's defined by loyalty. That just because someone loved you once doesn't mean they'll honor you forever. And most of all, that closure isn't a conversation, it's a choice. A choice to stop waiting for the apology. To stop checking the door. To stop hoping they'll become the person you needed them to be. That morning I chose peace. Not revenge. Not bitterness. Not silence for attention. Real, honest peace. And the wildest thing? No one gave it to me. I had to claim it myself. And now I guard it like a treasure. Because once you crawl out of a place where people buried you, you never let anyone hold a shovel over you again. Not even family. It's been over a year now. No calls. No texts. No birthday messages. No fake attempts at reconnection. Just silence. And for the first time in my life, I've learned to love it. Not because I hate them, but because I finally stopped begging people to respect me. I don't check their social media. I don't wonder how they're doing. I don't fantasize about running into them and saying the perfect thing. I've let go of all that. I forgave them quietly, not for them, but for me. Because carrying around bitterness is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die. And I was tired of being sick with what they did to me. Forgiveness, for me, wasn't an invitation back into my life. It was a release. A clean break. A moment of truth where I said to myself, you deserve better and you'll never settle for less again. Julian never apologized. Elena never wrote anything past those few desperate messages. And I don't need them to. Because I don't need validation from the people who broke me to know I'm whole now. People say family is forever, but I've learned that sometimes family is the very thing you have to outgrow in order to survive. Julian was my brother. Elena was going to be my wife. And now they're just two people who taught me the most painful, powerful lesson of my life, that loyalty without boundaries turns you into a doormat. That love without honesty is manipulation. And that when someone shows you their true colors, you better stop trying to repaint them. I look in the mirror these days and I don't see the man who was left behind. I see the man who walked forward anyway, who rebuilt, who chose himself, finally, after years of being everyone else's foundation. So if you're listening to this and you've ever felt the sting of betrayal from the people you'd never expect, let me be the one to tell you, your pain is real, your anger is valid, and your healing is yours now. You don't owe it to anyone else. Not the ones who left. Not the ones who hurt you. Not the ones who want you quiet so they don't have to feel guilty. You get to heal loud if you want to, or silently, or not at all today. But you will heal. And when you do, you'll realize what I did. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't getting even. It's getting free. And staying free. Forever.